And so with the operating agreement, you want to include what I just mentioned. Are you member managed or manager managed? You want that in the operating agreement. You want to spell that out. So with some states, you don't have to put that information on the Secretary of State. You just have to put the information that they request, and that's not one of the things they request. Some states may say you have an option to include other information, an option to include different provisions that will go in your articles of organizations for the public to see. You have that option, but it's not mandatory in some states. And so those states that is not mandatory, you want to make sure that you have an operating agreement and that you are, mentioning if you are member managed or manager managed. And the states that are required, then of course you will actually have it, but you want to make sure you're choosing the right, option that fits how you want to operate your business. So the operating agreement should include that. You want to also include, if you're thinking about voting rights, or if you're thinking about elections for members. So let me just stop there. So when you have an LLC, you can have it mimic how other entities operate. You don't have to have that entity. So give you an example. If you have an LLC, you can mimic how corporation operates. A corporation has board of directors, their titles and roles, you vote the board, you have all that stuff laid out. You can do the same thing with LLCs. You can, with the LLC, delineate if everybody's members, say it's not manager managed, but it's still just members managed, you can have different classes of members. But that is something that you have to put in writings, right? So it's not by default working that way. By default, all members, same class, one class, same control. And your operating agreement, you can say it's not manager managed. It is, member managed, but there's different type of benefits and rights assigned to certain classes of members. So you can have people come on and you have a certain class of members that have voting rights, and then a certain class of members who just have, everyday full engagement in the company. But those are some of the things that you can literally spell all the way out if you have an operating agreement to talk about how you are absolutely operating. And then another thing that's really important that people overlooked is transfer rights. So in your operating agreement, you can list, what type of restrictions to transfer assets in and out of a company, or transfer anything, cash, whatever it is. You can list what restrictions are in your operating agreement, what restrictions are, or what are the processes for it to happen in your operating agreement. That is something that you want to completely spell out, and not just have a conversation about it, but you want to spell out these are the restrictions in order for transfer to happen. These are the restrictions also of distribution of profits and losses. The members that are part of the LLC, can they distribute profits or losses, or sign profits and losses? How are distributions made to the members in the LLC? Again, if you have 3 individuals who start an LLC and you say nothing else more, by default, what? They're all members. And then by default, they all have equal control. So that's a third. Is that how you want the distribution to look? If nothing's written and something was to come up or happen and you had to go to court, or some fact finder had to make a decision, it's easier just to say, okay, whatever you're arguing about, we're gonna split it in thirds. But what if one of the members didn't even give a third of participation, a third of anything? And it's fine if they don't, and then you want them to get a third of the profit. You want them to be accountable for a third of the losses. But if you don't, that needs to be in writing exactly how distribution of profit and losses look. Is it equal? Is it more or less for certain members? Those things need to be covered, and that information need to be covered in an operating agreement. You also want to mention in the operating agreement, if something was to happen from a third party outside, such as a creditor. So say if a member owed a creditor something,